I had a special request from one of you guys to do an educational video on narcissism and codependency. Those are huge buzzwords right now in the media and in general. I just want to name that a lot of the time we like to put ourselves in boxes and label. It makes sense for our brains. Our brains don't like to have to figure out something they don't want to figure out. So it's easier for us in general to make quick associations and give something or someone a label. Hey, Lindsay. So we do that with words like narcissism, codependency. That's one we use all the time. And I just want to shed some light on it because so many people, I truly feel, do not understand either of these terms. We definitely are overgeneralizing and overgiving labels these days. And we have to be really, really careful with this. We don't want to turn labeling and psychobabble as weapons. We don't want to use those terms as weapons against one another. No, those words and those diagnoses, and codependency is not a diagnosis, by the way, but what they do is they help us understand a certain type of individual that displays these types of characteristics so that we, people like me, can help them better. That's why we have labels. That's why we have the diagnostic statistical manual of disorders, mental disorders, is so that therapists, psychotherapists, psychologists, psychiatrists, and doctors can treat people effectively. That's what it's for. It's not so that we can go around and say, oh, my dad's a narcissist, or my mom's a narcissist, or super codependent, or it might be true. I'm not saying it's not true, but it's definitely not very helpful most of the time and can feel very marginalizing and unfair when someone's talking about you or someone that you love, or you're overgeneralizing someone that you love and that you know, because we're, as human beings, incredibly complex. And so we really want to be sensitive and tender and careful with how quick we are to label these days. So I just wanted to put that little PSA from a licensed clinician out there and coach, because I hear it so much and I hear it often misguided. So just first I want to talk about codependency. Because I hear this one a lot. And I want to name that in general, most of us have codependency, as I call flavors or traits. Why, you might ask? Well, we were designed for relationship, right? We know that as women of faith, God did not design us to be alone. So we want to be around others. What others think about us it matters to us. And that is definitely how we were designed. Hey, Adele, good to see you. So someone who's codependent is the difference in someone who's codependent and then someone who just likes to make other people happy, likes to be around other people, likes to maybe serve people, like in all kinds of service, right? That person isn't codependent. You're not codependent if you care a lot about what other people think of you. That's a good thing. What we don't want to do is make it an idol, right? That's where we get into some codependency space. So I want you to think of just codependency in general as on a continuum, and the same with narcissism, and we'll get to that in a minute. So these are ways that we use and we can quickly use to define someone, but we really want to think about it just on a continuum. Meaning there is a overwhelming amount of potential codependency or narcissism, and then there's the less, there's the not at all. So we want to think of ourselves as maybe somewhere along the continuum and not give ourselves the label of narcissist or codependent, or our husband as a narcissist and ourselves a codependent. So we want to be really careful. So how do I know if I'm codependent? You might wonder, well, what about me? How do I know? Well, how you know if you're codependent is if you can answer, yes, I would do this. A codependent person, I'm just giving a scenario. Let's say they have a very full day and they have chock-a-block from 8 in the morning till 8 at night. They have no room in their schedule. And one of their friends calls and says, hey, I need you to pick me up from the airport at 4 p.m. Can you do it? A codependent person will say, yep, and figure it out. That's what a codependent person will do. Why? Because it would be so much harder for that person. They're telling themselves, I can't say no to this person, so I am going to make my day a living hell and completely overextend myself in order to make sure I make my friend happy. So a codependent person, yeah, I hear you, Lindsay. Good. I'm glad it's getting better. Yay. Good you. Yay you. A codependent person is going to move heaven and earth to go and pick up that friend. A person who has good boundaries and who is aware of kind of their stuff. And if they, if you have nothing going on that day and you want to go pick up your friend during rush hour, and you're just like, hey, I missed this friend. I haven't seen him in a while. It'll be a great time to listen to catch up on my podcasts or, catch up with my friend. That's a different thing. Okay. So a codependent person is going to move heaven and earth to make someone else happy in that situation. Another definition of a codependent person, what you say about me matters more than what I say about me. If you're okay, I'm okay. If you're not okay, I'm not okay. What we want to get to in regards to codependency is we want to get to the place where we can say, hey, you're not okay. I can be okay with that. I'm here if I can help. That's healthy. That's a healthy relationship, a healthy boundary. I am not in charge of someone else's feelings. How someone else feels about me is also, we know this, not my business, unless I've done something wrong. Unless God is saying, hey, Julie, you really need to pay attention to how you show up with this person. You have a tendency to do this thing. That's different, right? But when God brings something to mind that he wants us to work on, that's great. That's such important gold, right? That we can actually use in our relationships. But technically, I'm not responsible for someone else's feelings. Another way to just kind of name codependency in an easy way is when I'm basically only living to serve and please others to the point where I don't know myself. I don't have a sense of self because all I'm doing is making sure everyone else in my life is okay, that I don't attend to what God called me to do. I'm so concerned with how everyone else feels about me that I have no idea how I feel about me or what I want to do or what God is calling me to do. I might know what my husband's calling is or my kids' calling or whatever, my friends. But so a codependent person is so much more interested in all. I got you, Lindsay. I get it. Me too in so many ways. They're interested in all of that, and they're truly not comfortable with someone else having feelings that are unsettled. They don't want that. So they want to do everything they can to make that person okay, because then they'll be okay. So in general, there's lots of different definitions about codependency, but if you can just walk away with remembering just two things, and the last thing I'm going to share with you. Most all of us have codependency tendencies because we want relationship and we care about people. We are not islands. We are not living on an island. How people feel and think about us affects us directly. And God wants it to, right? He's using relationship to mirror all the time. We mirror and project goodness. We encourage other people. All those things are so good. But what we don't want is us to make that an idol instead of what God is calling us to do and bring about in that relationship and in our life. And the second thing is just to be really careful about labeling yourself as codependent, thinking of yourself maybe on the continuum. And okay, God, I'm noticing maybe with this person, I'm super codependent, or this group of people, but over here, I'm not at all. Lord, help me make sense of that. So sometimes we do have a tendency to waver on the continuum. So we just want to, as with anything, ask God to help us make sense of that, how we can be clear about boundaries, and what we need to do in regards to how to show up better for ourselves so that we can be used by God in the way that He has called and designed us to be used. Because there is a reason that we're here. There is a calling on your life, and that we can just have to ask God and help us find it, okay? And it's not to serve and to help everyone else feel better around us. Okay, that's not our calling. Serving is a very genuine thing, and helping others is a wonderful, wonderful thing, but we don't want to make it an idol. Okay, so that's a little bit on codependency. One other thing I want to share on codependency: if these 4 M's are present, or even 2 of the M's are present, or 1 of the M's are present, then you most likely are struggling with some codependency somewhere. So here are the 4 M's: mothering others, manipulating others, martyring, or managing. So if those 4 M's, you can notice that those are present in relationships, or particularly always with this person, I do these 4 things, then you're codependent in that relationship. So that's another way to just kind of, be kind of cognizant of that, be aware of that. And again, with everything, ask God to help you with it. He will absolutely help you figure out a way to do this differently. There's tons of material out there, but I truly believe in getting help. Good. I'm glad, Lindsay. I'm so glad. I truly believe that we don't change on our own. Okay, we just don't. God didn't design us that way. So if you're noticing that this is a struggle that you have, get some help. Reach out to a therapist, reach out to a coach, reach out to, a mentor, someone that you really value, that you look up to, and work on this, and just pray to God, ask him, God, what do I need to do around this? And he will tell you. So the second thing, narcissism. Narcissism is a huge buzzword these days. Oh my goodness. I don't know. There was a time when I was hearing somebody say, they're such a narcissist. They're such a narcissist. What I want to just again caution with the term narcissism, it's very hard to meet the full diagnosis of a narcissist. In the Diagnostic Statistical Manual, to really meet all the criteria, having absolutely no empathy for other people, constantly needing approval and admiration, taking advantage of others, failing to notice others' needs because yours are so much more important, and having an escalated sense of self. Those are the general ones. But to truly meet all of those, to meet the diagnosis of narcissism, it is hard to do. I'm not saying people don't do it, they do, but we want to just be careful. Just because maybe someone in your life is constantly needing approval, or just because maybe they have trouble listening to other people's ideas, doesn't necessarily mean that they're a narcissist. The empathy is the real thing. If someone can't empathize with another person, they don't care about how their actions or how what they say affects people, and they don't feel for other people's maybe difficulties or sadness or struggles. I'm not saying that they have to change it or do something about it, but having no empathy, that's a specific type of person. So I just want to be, just because maybe someone is egocentric or struggles to take on other people's opinions or ideas, doesn't necessarily mean that they're a narcissist. So we want to be really careful with that. Now, looking at all of these things in our marriage, the thing it was one of y'all actually wanted me to talk about this today. And what's interesting, and I don't know if this is an awareness with everyone, but quite often, if there is a narcissist in the family or in the marriage, there most likely is a codependent. They work really well together, right? The codependent is very concerned, making sure that someone else is okay, that their needs are met. It's all about them, not about me. And a narcissist loves that, right? They love that. They love being in charge. They love calling the shots. They love being the one in the spotlight. Remember Narcissus, the god who wanted to look at his face in the mirror or in the pond, I guess. I can't remember the mythology right now, all of it, but that's where that word comes from. So those two roles in a marriage and in a coupleship, unfortunately go hand in hand. How do you know if maybe you're married to a narcissist? What will it look like? Well, it'll look like something like this. They'll project a lot of their own stuff onto you. So whatever they're thinking about, maybe they don't like something that they do, they'll project that onto you. For example, Maybe a narcissist, it doesn't like the way that they don't work out or something. Then they'll say, why don't you ever work out? You should work out. You'd look a lot better. You'd be healthier if you worked out. That's projection. So whatever's going on for them, they throw it on somebody else. Something else that they do, they'll blame you for everything instead of taking ownership and responsibility on themselves. Typical narcissistic behavior there. They'll gaslight you. Gaslighting is another term that people use a lot. What does gaslighting really mean? Gaslighting is when someone completely invalidates whatever you have just shared or said or done to the point where you think you're going crazy. So what could that look like? I'm just hypothetical. I just made a wonderful dinner for you, and you come home and you throw it in my face, and I told you I was going to do that, and you've already eaten. It completely makes me feel sad. So this is the wife talking. Someone who's gaslighting is, you didn't tell me you were going to make dinner. That's on you. That's your decision. I guess you wanted to make dinner for yourself because it wasn't for me. That's gaslighting. When you know you had the conversation, you know you talked about it, you're not going crazy. Gaslighting is just throwing it all in your face, completely invalidating your experience, and making themselves look like they've done nothing wrong. That's gaslighting. A narcissist will also not value. They won't show you that they value you. They won't listen to you. They don't really care about your opinions on things. They don't make time to listen to you. And then they isolate. Sometimes they can isolate you. Like they don't want you to hang out with your friends. They don't want you to do the things that bring you joy, maybe grow you or stretch you. They want to keep you small and keep your world small. And then of course that's a method of controlling. So if you're curious if you might be married to a narcissist, those are some of the things that most likely would be going on in your marriage if you were, or if you're in a relationship with someone, that's mostly what it would look like. Okay. So real quickly, what do you do about it? What do you do about it? If this is like ticking all your boxes today, well, I said in regards to the codependency, God is the one who's going to helpfully hope to stir your heart most. If this does ring true for you, maybe you're struggling with narcissism yourself. If I'm perfectly honest, sometimes I can get a little bit into my own head about things in my marriage and not take my husband's considerations or his feelings. I can sometimes steamroll, him, and well, that's not as important because he's not doing the things I've asked him to do, and so that's not important. Well, that's a form or a little flavor of narcissism, even though I'm not a narcissist. But we want to be aware of, okay, when am I doing a little too much there? Or when am I invalidating my spouse? And we just want to ask God to help us pull back, right? This is we are not finished yet, right, ladies? We are on our way to the kingdom, and we are here to do a work. And so we're always asking God to refine us, to make us as perfect as our Heavenly Father is perfect, knowing that true perfection is not possible here on earth, but it doesn't mean we don't keep trying to better ourselves, to be and live and love more like Christ. So we want to just ask God to help speak truth into this. If any of these things are ringing true for you today. Number 2, what do you want to do? You want to get clear. You want to get clear on what yours is to own. You want to do some inventory work. These kinds of things are best done, again, with the help of someone else with you. It's very hard to see your own stuff when it's yours. You need someone to help you be able to take a step back and say, oh, wow, do you see the correlation there? Or what's coming up for you? And guiding you through that process. We just can't heal on our own. We can't do it. And when we're in the middle of the muck and the challenge and the trial, we are not able to we can't see things clearly. We're literally too close to it.